Hello you beautiful misfits, my name is Matt and this is Pixelburn, where I get snotty and mean about the more important, interesting or irritating things to have happened in the week's gaming news. Starting with the launch of the new Telltale game's Batman, which came out this week to generally positive reviews from mainstream gaming outlets. Although if the backlash from PC gaming fans is any indicator, then it's likely most of those outlets only played it on consoles, because the Steam version's launch was troubled by more bugs than an entomophobe juiced up on a heroic dose of Scarecrow's fear toxin. One of the main points of contention was the game's video resolution, which defaulted to a really weird non-standard one like 1536 by 841, and you couldn't simply change it in the options and be done with it either, no! You had to select your preferred resolution and then go all the way back to the very first screen before the game would ask if you wanted to actually keep those settings. Essentially, you had to threaten the game with quitting before it realised you did actually want it in 1080p and weren't just making a polite suggestion. Which is probably something Batman himself would do now that I think about it. Oh Jesus, what do you want from me, Batman? 1080p! Although that's assuming the game didn't completely ignore your shiny new GTX 1080 in favour of your motherboard's integrated graphics processor instead, leading to frame rates as low as 10 frames per second and hideous visual quality. Meanwhile, fans playing the game on PC with a controller quickly encountered an issue where the game wouldn't accept the button inputs it was asking for, because it had secretly mapped the right trigger to the left trigger instead. So while the on-screen prompt would tell you to press the right trigger and A button to do something, like beat up a superstitious and cowardly criminal for example, you'd fail if you did that because you should have been pressing the left trigger and A button instead. Worst Riddler puzzle ever. Other bugs include a white screen of death before the intro, a black screen of death after the intro, audio out of sync with the character's mouth movements, the correct subtitles not showing on time, and reports of notable mouse lag that make some of the game's QuickTime events more difficult than they should be. There was also a serious game halting bug where accessing the Batcomputer codex, a vital source of information on the game's major characters, leaves you stuck unless you exit to the main menu and restart from a previous checkpoint, as clearly demonstrated in Dodger's playthrough here.
Fuck. Oh my god, why did I click this?
Maybe all of Telltale's playtesters were hardcore Batman fans and thus didn't need to look up who Carmine Falcone is. Fortunately, to the best of my knowledge, nobody's yet reported a bug wiping all their saved game progress, as has been the case in previous Telltale titles like The Walking Dead, although that may only be a matter of time. To their credit, Telltale did quickly put out a patch rectifying a couple of these bugs. The game now automatically defaults to actually using your graphics card, and they've added graphics settings to let players select the texture quality. Control issues, monochrome screens of death, and the codex issue, however, still remain unresolved for some players. But then it's ludicrous to expect any game to be released completely bug-free nowadays, especially a Batman game, and at least Telltale responded relatively quickly to the problem. Yet Batman's issues, besides the usual ones, are the strongest indicator yet for me personally that Telltale might be buckling a bit under the strain of working on so many titles with monthly and bi-monthly episodes. We all remember episode 3 of The Walking Dead was slightly delayed, but we could understand that at the time because Telltale was still relatively small back then. Not that 125 employees is really all that small, true, but it is compared to the 240 employees they're at now. It was the 4-month delay for episode 2 of The Wolf Among Us, however, that the cracks really began to show. The Walking Dead season 2 was also in full swing at this time, and Telltale still had Tales from the Borderlands and Game of Thrones waiting in the wings. After that came Minecraft Story Mode, episode 5 of which was delayed by 3 months, during which Telltale were also putting out The Walking Dead Michonne. Now we've got Batman, a 3rd season of The Walking Dead on the way, and an unnamed Marvel Comics based game due in 2017 on top of that. So with all that on their plate and more, is it any wonder we're seeing noticeable blips in quality from Telltale? Technical quality at least. By most accounts, the writing in Telltale's Batman is of the level most people expect from a Telltale game, albeit more focused on dissecting the character of Bruce Wayne than Batman. It's just a shame the bug reports are overshadowing the story, particularly when you consider the game is supposed to be running on an updated version of Telltale's own proprietary game engine. Maybe it's all just simply teething problems with a new engine iteration that'll be ironed out by episode 5. Except as I mentioned earlier, Telltale's previous games are no stranger to bugs either, with the same ones cropping up across multiple titles in an ever-descending spiral, and that concerns me a bit. As much as I jokingly call The Walking Dead the perfect antidote to a good day, and that we all wised up long ago to the fact half those so-and-so will remember that message is a complete bollocks, I still enjoy Telltale's games. So it's a shame to see an anticipated title like Batman stumble at the starter's pistol because of technical issues stemming from what appears to be Telltale biting off a wee bit more than they can comfortably chew. It's great that they get to play around in places like Westeros and Gotham. Really, I'm chuffed for them. I just worry that Telltale's board of directors, which include former EA and current Unity CEO John Riccitiello and Lionsgate CEO John Feldheimer, might be pushing a bit too hard for them to take on more than they can realistically carry. I mean, it's one thing for a Telltale game to have bugs, but if the stories themselves start to suffer, well, that's kind of the main reason people play Telltale games, innit? In other news, the run-up to the release of No Man's Sky has continued to be beset by spoilers, broken street dates, and the hard collision of hype versus reality after someone paid $1,300 on eBay for the privilege of playing it early, which I still can't wrap my head around. I mean, paying over the odds to help fund the development of a game the way Star Citizen backers do? Sure, I can comprehend that. I can also understand paying oodles of cash for a super rare game that either never got released or only ever had about 5 copies made. But paying nearly $1.5 just to play a game 2 weeks early? Pure bloody decadence if you ask me. Although the early bird in question, who goes by the moniker Damien on Reddit, did reveal some interesting information about the game that didn't quite align with the hopes and dreams fans had been projecting onto it, which I think is rather noble of him in a way, and makes his $1,300 purchase seem more altruistic and less utterly bonkers. After all, he could have just uploaded videos of himself dancing around holding the box, singing, "I get to play it before you, I get to play it before you." Anyhow, among Damien's chief discoveries were that every planet he encountered had some sort of life on it, a fact somewhat at odds with this quote lead designer Sean Murray of Hello Games made 2 years ago. If you want to fly into space and you go and visit planets, most of them will be dead. They will be rocks. What we want to do is, 90% of the time that will probably be true in our game. A planet will be like this where it's barren. A lot of them won't have atmospheres. Damien also set out on his space jaunt with a clear aim of reaching the centre of the galaxy he started the game in, a goal he achieved in a mere 30 odd hours thanks to what appeared to be a deliberate, albeit awfully unbalanced, design choice on Hello Games' part. All I'll say is it involves a 100% reliable, easy to access source of free hyperspace fuel and selling a certain resource guaranteed to be found at specific, recurring, non-hostile locations for shitloads of space money. Damien also found a couple of bugs, such as large sea creatures like whales spawning in shallow water upside down and stuck halfway into the ground, and full-on crashes to the PS4 menu while warp jumping. He also encountered a nasty game-breaking bug whereby a black hole he was using to slingshot himself a long stellar distance threw him instead into an infinite cosmic abyss of nothingness from which there was no escape. After a few more videos detailing things like combat and exploration, Damien stopped recording his adventures when Sean Murray tweeted a brief statement urging people not to spoil the game for themselves. Oops. Too little too late, alas. Damien's interstellar antics opened the floodgates for more retailers to break street dates and more people to record and stream their own preemptive adventures in the No Man's Skyverse, including Polygon and Kotaku, who both purchased a copy of the game from street date breaking retailers to do gameplay vids about. As of this video, Kotaku's footage is still available to watch, but Polygon's was removed after Sony politely informed them a DMCA takedown notice was incoming, thus robbing the world of the opportunity to watch a random Polygon intern walking into trees and shooting at clouds. Well, not at the same time, obviously. In the aftermath of these leaks, Hello Games have announced that the No Man's Sky servers will be wiped before the game's PS4 release on August 9th and PC release on August 12th, resetting all those custom named planets back to their pristine, pre-leak randomly named state. According to Hello Games' Harry Denham, character leveling won't be affected, so in theory, you'll still have your upgraded ship and gear. Sony meanwhile have contradicted that by saying character progress will also be wiped. Either way, all those early birds who stuck their metaphorical flags across countless worlds will find their galactic ambitions were for nothing, while Kotaku's interstellar memorial to Harambe the gorilla is banished to the cold void of cosmic oblivion. Hello Games have also announced they've been hard at work on No Man's Sky's first update that will add new features, balance changes and content, which fans have assumed will be a day one patch. Correctly in this case, literally just as I finished writing and recording all this ready for editing, Hello Games released these patch notes for what they're calling their Day Zero update. Besides including a couple of rather cheeky digs at everyone who played the game early, They also mention things like a new atmospheric system that allows for more intense sunsets, making galaxies 10 times larger, the ability to tame animals that shit out free resources, entirely rewriting one of 3 main story paths, and a whole host of other changes to ensure the game meets fans' expectations. Even though it's precisely these sorts of wild fan expectations and speculations that have contributed to No Man's Sky's turbulent run-up to release. Hello Games have been caught in the unenviable position of trying to preserve the game's sense of mystery, which is something of a big deal in exploration games. After all, without the mystery, there's no incentive to explore, so Hello Games wisely kept things as vague as possible. Of course, wherever there are gaps in something, it's human bloody nature to fill them in, meaning Hello Games' best intentions inadvertently created a blank canvas for fans to gleefully project their hopes and dreams onto, no matter how outlandish or unrealistic. So while some people have chastised Damien for tarnishing the surprise a bit and not showing the game in the best possible light, I think he's done an important job of tempering people's expectations. His footage was a necessary reality check for people expecting No Man's Sky to have the space combat of Elite, the deep economic systems of EVE Online, the harvesting and construction of Minecraft, the survival elements of Rust, the social aspect of an MMO, and to serve you breakfast in bed with a side helping of oral sex every morning. And as we can clearly see in the Day Zero patch notes, he helped Hello Games identify a serious exploit that they themselves fully admit was game ruining. And yet, despite the game not 100% living up to the impossible runaway hype, Damien strongly believes it succeeds in what it sets out to do, vis-a-vis exploring planets, and says he still very much enjoyed his time in No Man's Sky.
Don't let the hype train die. It's still a really cool game, and yeah, so good job Sean and Hello Games. I hope you guys enjoy it.
But then if I'd paid $1,300 for something, I'd probably say I enjoyed it too. That's all for this episode of Pixel Burn. If you liked it, then please do let me know by clicking the requisite button down below, and let your friends, family, acquaintances and Batman know as well. At the very least, I hope you found it tolerable. Meanwhile, till next time, as always, you can go now.